Yeah, welcome everybody to BSS for our iGP4 F4 race. First one of the season here at Oulton Park. As you see, we are gridding up, so we'll be getting into the race quite shortly. Apologies, we were a little hectic getting final preparations in order, but yeah, super excited here. Beautiful day. We're sitting at a nice 20 degrees Celsius, so track isn't too crazy. Or the track conditions actually 28 Celsius on the road itself with a little bit. And we got a race going to be starting underway quite shortly, as you can hear from the revs. Yeah, let's go ahead and get on into it. It's going to be Ruben taking the lead off the start. We'll see whether or not can hold it. Again, we're in a pretty tight little race here of four F4s. As this is our test race to see if everything's working perfectly fine. But yeah, not too bad here. Gets in around the corner, and that's going to be Leonard actually getting up and ahead there with Ruben chasing in the second. And actually gets the overtake done there. So now Ruben got to defend a little bit more, going in a little bit deep, but still just hanging on there as they go around the shell corner, out back onto the throttle, and then getting into our first set of chicanes here at Oulton, which, again, got to take a lot of bravery, especially in these F4s, to just go ahead and nail into that sector. But they're going to go ahead and carry on over, and pretty solid so far. Nothing too crazy. We do have a late start from James, it appears, from the pit lane. But tailing back there, it's still nice in order. Nobody wants to get too hectic here. We got 33 minutes of racing still to go. So no worry on being a highly aggressive this early on in the race, to say the very least here. With our F4s, we do have no driver changes, so unlike the GTs, they'll be running a little bit later, where there is a mandatory pit stop. F4, they're just going to keep on running until they're either out of fuel and they need to pit, which for a 35-minute race, I don't think they need to. But I'll have to double check here, as we do actually have one person that I believe just went off in the backside there. I believe that was Kavan. That may have crashed. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick pop over there and see what exactly has happened. Yeah, it just gets a little bit loose there coming out of the corner. Not a whole lot they're able to do there, as they'll get themselves back on track. But for now, we'll get ourselves back to live. As going back to live, actually, Ruben's going to go ahead and spin out. Okay. Ruben, not too sure what happened there. We go back to live, and unfortunately has a little bit of a spin and ends up losing the lead of the race, dropping back down to third. That's actually not Ruben, that's Maxim. As Ruben's still up ahead, but now that moves Lucas up into second position. As still trying to chase down here for that first slot. Again, 32 minutes though, still a lot of time before we really need to jump on in there, as there's still quite a lot of racing to go down, is the TLDR. No reason to get too hectic. You can see now a little bit of a pull starting to gap there between the two squads of Ruben and Lucas. Ruben racing under Soul of Racing. Meanwhile, Lucas under his own team, so Lucas Chatterton. And that's actually going to be fastest lap put down there by James. So James being the late joiner, which for some reason has not appeared up on our timing tower. So we'll see what's going on there. But there we go. Leonard actually putting down the, not Leonard, Piper, James, actually putting down the fastest of the laps. Coming in there very fast. We'll see if Maxime is going to be able to at least catch back up to these front cars, but unfortunately, the spin there, a little unfortunate. It does look like actually Kavan has retired the car after that early spin. not a whole lot could be done there, I guess. I didn't want to drive it out here, even though we have ourselves 30 minutes. Speaking here, though, James does have a meatball showing up on the timing session. I'm not sure what has happened there, but James may have had some difficulty. We'll jump back really shortly and see as they go back across the line, but just seeing here, yeah, James just spins out and ends up tapping the wall. Oh, okay, well, meatball is a bit understandable when you lose the back bumper there, but yeah, not the greatest of instances. So James is gonna have to go back to the pits now, as you can see. Yeah, in the pits already. So after losing out there. And unfortunately, not a whole lot can be done because your fast repairs aren't enabled in these races. So unfortunately for James, that probably is going to do him in, even though he had the fastest lap just the lap before. We'll see. Still in that pit. I don't know if he's going to be able to get that repair done in time. He'll probably be quite far behind there. Probably suspension damage. Meanwhile, Ruben just sailing away at this point. Feeling pretty good. A little bit of a lock up there from the number 37 coming into the first of the second chicane. Maybe driving this a little bit aggressive. But not much that can be done. Checking back here, Maxime starting to chase down Lucas here. Has been able to get a little bit of a nice pace going. We know Lucas has been starting to fall a little bit behind. As unfortunately there. Yeah, you can see there, starting to clue us in about half a second as the 37 has really pulled in. As Lucas is maybe beginning a little bit too... Oh, Lucas just ends up going off there, and that's going to open up the opportunity for the 37 to make a clean pass, and that's going to be second place picked up there by Maxim. Nice and easy, unfortunately, there for Lucas. Just gets a little bit squirrely out of the first bend. Again, usually you're going to be lifting off there, so maybe just puts the gas on, puts on a little bit too much power before making the apex of the turn, just going a little bit wide. Trying to drive it on the edge here, but still within attacking range. Only 4/10 between him and the 37. As again, we'll try and pick up the pace as much as possible. Still 27 minutes. Meanwhile, Ruben at this point has checked out, as you can see. Yeah, it's about a 4/10. But previous laps, the 37 was just able to pull a little bit there. But let's see. Ruben just puts in the fastest lap, just blasting through the laps here. Still plenty of time. Yeah, it does look like James is probably going to be retiring, as I think... Yeah, unfortunately there, it is just an unfortunate amount of repairs needed for that car, so there's not going to be a whole lot they're going to be able to do there. We'll still get ourselves a little bit of a nice one here. Ruben's keeping the distance. Actually, Ruben having a little bit of squirrely trouble there. We just saw losing a couple tenths. Not sure what happened there. Check it back with Ruben. Ruben is, just over the hill. Maybe got a little bit too aggressive into the chicane. Lost a little bit of time. Oulton's an interesting track, actually. especially for the F4s as we go on board there. Again, you got to drop down into the fourth just to get the car to get around, make the rotation. But we'll stay here with Ruben onto the onboard and just see how his lap pans out. Actually loses another couple tenths there on the previous lap, so starting to lose a little bit, but as you can see, on board with Ruben as Matt Team just puts down the fastest lap, going down into our first turn, drop down into fourth, being a little bit cautious here actually. Could probably take that a little bit more aggressively. But goes all the way down. You're going to go right on down to Shell Corner. Which again, just that slow, long U-turn. Dropping it down into third, maybe second. Got to wait to get on the power here, as too early you'll go off to the side on the left and touch the grass, and that will just put you in a bad spot. But into the chicane now. Got to be... Ooh, that was a little bit unfortunate there for Ruben. I think just a little bit hesitating there. Maybe it's the ghost of the onboard camera spooking him, but was a little bit timid there. And that's actually given the opportunity now for the 37 to make some ground up. Ruben just kind of has to put in the laps, but with 24 minutes, if the laps kind of repeat there, we may see Lucas and the 37 start to actually get themselves back into this contest. If you're joining us for the first time, this is the British Sim Series running F4 as well as GT combined, GT3 and 4, mirroring the British Series. This is our first round, so a little bit low on participation, as expected though, for the first races here. And this is our supporting class, so I think later on in today we're going to be looking at about 22 cars in our main round for the GTs. So it should be fun. Let's see, that 37 now is just starting to come around. Just starting to say hello. 2.8 seconds. A little bit of a lower pace here now. Starting to creep on in. As Ruben stays in front, but that 37 is starting to look and just see. As again, you can see there 4 tenths picked up on the last lap. So Ruben got to be a little bit careful here. We'll see what happens at the line, as I'm interested to see whether or not Maxim is going to be, apologies for the names, I'm still learning the pronunciations, for the 37 to actually catch back up there. So yeah, lose a little bit of time there, so Ruben just keeping the gap. Again, don't want to overdrive the car too much here, or you'll end up regretting it later on. As Ruben going back down the straight. Making his way over the Shell Corner. Keeps it back onto the gas, so no issues there. Cracks through the chicane quite nicely, back on over the hill. And it is a calm circuit, is the best way to describe this track. Once everybody kind of gets dialed in, it turns into a bit of a nice little trance. Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't look like Lucas is going to be able to make up ground here on the 37. I was kind of interested to see whether or not we'd see him start to, make a comeback here. But Lucas, unfortunately, not having the best of days after the spin. You can see that 37 just getting a little bit out of view. Unfortunately, isn't within tow, and unfortunately for Lucas, is going to go off there on the final turn. That downhill can be very tricky, especially in these F4s. You put on the gas too early, you will spin that car easily, as there's just not a whole lot of traction keeping the car down. Ends up just kind of underloading the rear tires, and unfortunately, you're just not going to have a good time there. Let's see how it recovers, though. I'm a little concerned. This is not a fun turn to come back into after a spin on the last one there. You can see, yeah, just gets right on the curb, keeps it alive. Yeah, that is a sketchy situation to have, spinning on that final turn. Meanwhile, Ruben into the first chicane, so well far ahead. Lucas, unfortunately, has just dropped a little bit too far down to, I think, really have contention. And really, for Ruben, it's his race to lose at the moment. Unfortunately, nothing too crazy here in positions gained between these. Everybody pretty much just shifting up, and unfortunately for James, tumbling down the order after the qualifying. Still in the pit, though. Give him credit. I do believe James is going to go back onto the circuit if he's able to get a repair in time. He's been in that pit now for about 10 minutes. And looks like actually Lucas, unfortunately for Lucas, there is a meatball. I think he ended up spinning again and almost clips the entry onto the pit lane. And yeah, we'll take a look now and see what ended up happening with Lucas, because I'm interested to see why he's back into the pits now, unfortunately. And again, just gets loose again. Does he end up tagging the wall? No. So why did he end up getting a meatball? Let's take another look here. I think he just tags. Did he just end up tagging the barrier going into the entry? We're going to rewind here. I'm not too sure why Lucas has received this. I think he just tags it. Yeah, I think he ends up just clipping it there, and with the netcode, it decides to have a little bit of a quick snap. Going back to live, though, actually, I believe Lucas, he's cleared his meatball, so he should be coming back out here any sec. Meanwhile, Ruben, coming down the front stretch, is going to lap. That's not a feels good. That's rough. And Ruben's also gone ahead and just drops the quickest lap. Meanwhile, during all that commotion, we actually just see he's opened up the gap by about 8/10. As it looks like the 37 ended up going off there. But Lucas does get himself back up onto the track, so good on him. I think just getting a little bit of clip there. Maybe it was the front wing that ended up getting damaged. But not too bad here, as they're gonna continue on. And yeah, our first race, to say the very least, for BSS. Back to Jordan, to Ruben, which is, I don't know why I said Jordan there. Ruben got to be a little bit careful here, actually. Taking a look, a couple incidents have popped up. Another off track coming in. And Lucas, unfortunately, going to get black flagged as well. So I just don't think, unfortunately, nothing can be really done there. Just taking a look, we have a couple off tracks actually starting to pile up here. So I think the drivers need to be a little bit careful, or else they'll be looking at a penalty here, especially Ruben. So we'll see. Just taking a look at my current results here. Taking a peek, and Lucas ends up having to go back into the pits due to a black flag. Taking a peek back here to 37, 3.5 seconds behind Ruben. Ruben actually dropping some time, but not too much there. I think just got a little bit of a lockup. Taking a look here, last lap, 3/10 for the 37. Ruben again, just on the edge. Gotta be a little bit careful. And just taking a peek here, it does look like James has cleared the meatball, so we'll see whether or not he decides to continue fourth. He's sitting at a 7-lap disadvantage, so unlikely to make it back out. 10 laps actually now looking here. Gap, yeah, there it is. The interval actually between Lucas and 7. It's the gap of 10 to the leader. James is back out. After repairing the car. Credit to them, you know, sticking this one out. Didn't have to, but did stick it out to the end. Back with our leader, Ruben. Last lap there, 2/10 down on the 37, but I think Ruben, at this point, gonna go on in here. I believe this is for a quick go. But there we go. Leader change is going to come in there as the 37 ends up passing him as Ruben is in the pits. Meanwhile, Ruben may not have to worry as the 37 ends up almost going completely off the track there going through the final turn. You can see there, starting to get a little bit loose. Tires starting to scream a little as the drivers put in a bunch of time. Ruben already out of the pit, so a quick stop and go to get the fuel. 22 seconds. We'll see. You'd say with clean air, maybe the 37, but unfortunately the gap was already there, so I don't think Ruben's going to lose out too much here, but we'll see if a slower pit stop strategy for the 37 can make a difference. Interesting to see now what happens with this 37. If they're sitting low on fuel or not. See, again, that's a very sketchy turn to go through. And no, gonna just pass by the pits once more. So again, feeling pretty confident here. Oh. While Ruben Making his way through the final corner as well. Now starting to go once more. Again, you can see just pulling a little bit more speed there. Take a peek back. James also still on the track. And with 10 minutes to go now. The 37 of Maxime. Looking all right. Looking all right. But again, we'll see whether or not they have to go for the pit stop there. But you see, that chicane, those tires, you're starting to see the drifting going in around the corners. And Ruben there, also having a good chicane, makes up some time, but let's see. The gap has shrunk between the pit stop by about a second, second and a half. We'll see if the shorter fuel stop is going to be enough to make up the time. That's my only consideration here right now, is if they need to do a fuel stop. I wonder if they even need to. With a full tank, they'd be pretty far, actually. So I'm actually really confused why Ruben went into the pit lane. And 21 seconds now for the 37. Over the 42 of Ruben Vega. A quick look with Ruben just going through shell corner now into the first chicane. Back on here, I just want to see the bravery. Always fun through here. Going down into 3, dropping into 2 just for the extra bit of rotation in around the chicane. They get into the second one here after getting all the way up into the 5th. Again, dropping it down into the second. Very conservative, actually. You can probably put a little bit more power there, but I think with the tires being as sketchy as they are now, when you're this far into the session, it's a bit hectic, to say the very least. And back in again, Ruben just having some issues going through that first corner there. Is a little bit too fast. Meanwhile, your 37 has left the building, is quite far ahead. Take a look now with James. James actually looking to overtake Lucas. Is currently 3 laps down of Lucas, who is still in the pit lane for the meatball. So James might be able to squeeze this up to a 3rd if he has enough time. Again, 3 laps here. Well, we're looking at 3. That's 4.5 minutes. It should be doable. Unless Lucas makes his way out of the pit lane. Gotta shout out James there, actually, you know, taking the time to do the repair and then coming back on track. Gotta take every bit, you see. Back on the front stretch. It's still gonna be the 37 here. Pushing forward. Pushing there. James now reduces that gap between him and Lucas down to 2 laps. Yeah, I really got to question why there was a pit there by Ruben. I'm not 100% sure. If it is a mandatory stop that was called. Nothing on the race control at the moment, so we'll keep tabs there in case. Dropping down, just a little bit of grass there. Well, let's take a look here with James. James keeping it pretty calm right now. Not a whole lot to worry about coming into that final corner. Yeah, not going too aggressive there actually on the exit. You can see was pretty calm, to say the very least. Coming down to the wire now a little bit here. James still has a lap to overtake and a lap to drive. So if Lucas happens to clear the pit lane, there is a chance Lucas can keep that position. It's whether or not the car will be drivable at this point. And we'll see exactly when race control is going to fire off here. And taking a peek now. We do actually have a couple off tracks coming in for Ruben. 2 on 18, 2 on 17. Same with the 37 here. So we could be looking at some potential. Let's see here. 2 laps remaining. There's going to be a little bit of lockout coming out there from James. So James now back onto the same lap as Lucas. We'll see if he can start closing down. Lucas still in the pits there, as you can see. Maywell back to our leader, the 37. Has just cruised away after Ruben going into the pit lane. Not sure again what happened there. Yeah, it's COM1 here. That is white flag being waved by race control. So now, ooh, the 37. We'll see here if they're going to be taking home our victory or not. But again, unfortunate there for Lucas. Lucas has DC'd from the connection. So that does mean James actually here is going to be able to jump back up into 3rd place after all the repairs. Ruben still 24 seconds out. Unfortunately, nothing a whole lot can be done as he's going through turn 3 now. But our 37 Going through the first chicane, we'll see. Pending any massive collision, massive incident, it's going to be the victory going on over to our 37 here for our first F4 support race in BSS. Through the chicane once more. On to the back half of the course. And it's going to be a nice, easy cruise to victory for the 37. Coming back down around the corner. Back onto your front. And that is going to be the 37 of Max Leonard taking home the victory for our first F4 race here in BSS. Ruben going to finish second here, as he's coming back down the line. Again, not too sure what happened with the required pit. Well, that's going to be the victory, and a quick little tap and a spin going over the line. James will be taking home third, as he, in style, goes back into the pit lane for unforeseen reasons. So here we go. That is going to be it for our F4 session. And yeah, let's just go ahead. We're going to go ahead and take a quick look at some of our prior incidents throughout the race. And starting things off there, that was Kavan that ended up going off toward the side there. Then our eventual race winner, Maxime, gets into contact there with Ruben. We actually didn't really get to see what ended up happening there. Over to James. James ended up just going off the track there after the bend, coming off the first corner, and ends up tapping the wall, getting the suspension damage, and that was his race pretty much locked and loaded over. Lucas, unfortunately for him, a little bit too much power on the exit of the final turn. And then another one from Lucas just going off the side there. And oh, we actually didn't see this one. Oh my. That was a bit of a proper crash coming in from Lucas. Oh my goodness. We'll have to take another look at that one again. Again, just gets a little bit squirrely going off toward the side and into the wall there. Just not a whole lot that could be done. So that is going to be it for our first race of the F4, as we take a quick and final quick check. Coming in there, that was our practice and then our actual race. Finishing there with, after 22 laps, first is going to be 37 from Belgium, our leader, followed by 42 Ruben, and that's all of racing after making that, again, pit stop, unsure what happened there. And then Lucas fighting his way back from the deficit after getting spun out. James having that severe damage just puts him down into fourth, and there's not a whole lot that can be done there. So that's going to be it, folks, for our first GP4 race. We're going to be taking a short break, and then we'll be getting back into the GT3s quite shortly. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.